I've been wanting to make this for a while, but it's a very difficult subject to approach and get right. And so I've decided to do it with my own experience and some humour. And I'm going to include some other people as well who technically I've met over the years, who I know have had IBS. And I won't tell you any of their names or anything else, but I'll tell you some of their experiences as well and the problems with IBS when you're out and about. And why this bag here with poo bags, some tissue and a few wipes, most people with IBS-D should carry with them all the time. And I'll explain all when I get back and sit down and make this video.
Well, that was a good walk. So, IBS. So this is a subject I've been wanting to do for ages. I don't really know how to approach it. It does go hand in hand with dyslexia and ADHD, and there's a reason for that. As far as I'm aware, all these things are genetic and passed down from your mother or your father or someone in your family. It could skip maybe and catch up. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know as far as IBS is concerned, and I'm adopted, so all the things I'm going to talk about today are going to surprise you. But so from my adopted mother and my half sisters and brothers, I know that some of this stuff's passed down. My mum was dyslexic, possibly had ADHD, she had IBS. So these things are really, really relevant, especially for someone that was adopted, so was grown up for a large proportion of their life not knowing they were adopted, then were told they were adopted, and then you can start thinking, well, why has my parents not got this problem or that problem? And the reason I actually went out and found my real mum in the beginning was because I had some medical issues that everyone kept saying to me, is there a history of this in your family? Well, I didn't bloody know. So at the end of the day, I went out and found my real mum, and recently over the last few years, I've found who my real father was, but he's dead. So I found out a lot about myself through finding my adopted mother and finding out from my siblings, etc. Some of the things that they've had that I didn't have with my adopted family. So that's very interesting. So IBS. I've sort of known early on there was something wrong with my bowels or my system and the way things worked. And that is probably early on as a child through, and I can't remember some of this stuff, but I can remember some of it later on, through potty training and then wetting the bed. I always remember as a kid thinking, I have to stop wetting the bed one day. I need to find a girlfriend and move on with my life. And that was very, very young. It wasn't very late. But I do remember thinking that and having thoughts like that and thinking, why do I want to wee so much? Why do I want to go to the loo so much? And I never really considered it until one day, I was very young and I can't remember how old, but I was still at school and I think it was my first or second school. So I was on a bus and I actually crapped myself. The joke part of it all is, as a kid, I just thought it was embarrassing but funny at the time. I was on a bus, it bloody stunk, and I took my shoelaces out of my shoes to tie around my jeans to stop it going any further down. And I got off the bus and you can tell everyone's going, what's that smell, this, that and the other. And that was probably my first embarrassing moment that I turned into humour. And as you'll hear in my other videos, I became a bit of a class clown with everything to deal with ADHD, dyslexia and IBS. So most of the time when I was younger, I just wanted to wee a lot more than most people. I do now, and I'll go on to that in detail later on. And I'm going to also touch on the NHS, how much doctors can and can't help, how much psychologists or counsellors can help or not help. But really, in the end, it's all down to you as an individual to work out what it is. So IBS comes in three things, and that's IBS-C, which is constipation, IBS-D, which is diarrhea, and IBS-M, which is mixed. I've been lucky enough over the course of 60 years of my life to experience all of them or none of them. And let's start off at the beginning. I experienced that one time on the bus, and then I lived through a couple of relationships with having to go to the toilet, IBS-D, diarrhea. That is, I would say, strangely enough, I probably had IBS-C first, which was stomach cramps and pains. When I was growing up and I was younger, I experienced stomach cramps and pains and I wanted to go to the toilet, but I couldn't go to the toilet. So it's more the constipation side of things. And the doctors prescribe you all sorts of stuff to help you go. But then what happens is you realize that you've now got IBS-D, and now you can't stop yourself going. For anyone that's never experienced this, let me tell you something right now. The stomach cramps and pains are really, really bad. And that's on the IBS-C for constipation. On the IBS-D for diarrhea, trust me, whereas most of you think, oh, I need to go to the loo, let's go and find a toilet. When you've got IBS-D, you think, oh, I need to go to the toilet, let's go. You take one more step and you've gone. You have to teach yourself from an early stage, and someone else taught me this. IBS-D is like a switch. When that switch is turned on, you're gonna go. You just need to find somewhere where to go. What you need to try and do is talk to your brain to try and tell it, well, hang on a minute, Now, some psychiatrists, whatever they're called, will try and teach you that you can control this. Trust me, that is a load of bollocks, right? You cannot control this. When you actually want to go, you need to go. I had an experience probably 15 years ago. So yes, I'm 62. So I had an experience roughly 15 years ago where I walked from here to Tesco's, which is probably 600 yards from my house. I walked to Tesco's, didn't even think about anything, got halfway home and thought, I need to go. Which way do I go? Back to Tesco's toilet or home to the toilet? I took 3 steps and I went. Yes, that's how embarrassing it is. Now, it hadn't happened for a while, but to actually go is something that happened when I moved to Liverpool from Kent, and I spoke to my doctors and I was talking about IBS and everything else. And the doctor said, but you don't actually go at your age, do you? You've learned to cope. And I said, no, I do actually go, yeah. There's nothing I can do about it. There's no way I can stop that signal in my brain telling me, just go. Unfortunately, it's what happens. And it becomes about suddenly, maybe caused by a bit of anxiety or something you don't even know you're thinking about, which is why psychiatrists or hypnotherapists or people want to try and think they can help you, or counsellors think they can help you. I once saw a counsellor to try and solve this issue actually, and she was telling me her brother's got IBS and you shouldn't have IBS because we can do this and other. And I thought, well, if your brother's got IBS, why haven't you fixed him? The truth of the matter is, your doctor, whoever will try and tell you they can fix this issue. I don't think they can. I think it's genetic. And the trouble is, it switches. So you could have IBS-D, you could have IBS-C, or you could have IBS-M, or it could all go away. And the worst thing about it is when IBS-D comes back, that's the shocker. Because IBS-C, when you get constipation, you can probably deal with that, and then you can probably go and get something like fibre gel or something to help you go. The worst thing is, very, very soon, once you've helped relieve the constipation, and then you'll get IBS-D again. And then the mix factor comes in because you keep getting them both, or it will go away. Something that I will talk about now, which will come up in the other 2 subjects I'm going to talk about, is over a period of time when I was self-medicating for ADHD, dyslexia, the problem with the IBS went away. So due to my own self-medication and smoking, etc., IBS completely went. I had this discussion with my doctor up here probably 15 years ago, and he basically said, yeah, but you don't want to start smoking and taking recreational drugs again, do you? And I said, no, that's not the way to fix it. But I don't think there is a way to fix it. At the time then, I was having terrible problems with just going randomly all over the place, which is why at the beginning of this, I showed you carrying dog poo bags, tissues, etc. Yes, it's a fact. If you have to go, you have to go. You are not, in this day and age, going to find a public toilet. You'll be lucky if you can find one in the shop. You can carry a card with you, an IBS card. You can buy them on Amazon or get one from the doctor, which will actually help you when you go in a shop. But the idea is you go in a shop and you show them this card and they allow you to use their toilet. Trust me, the whole anxiety that comes in to going in a shop, to use this card, to go to the toilet, it's too late, you've been. You cannot stop IBS-D. And the people that have got it probably will be amazed I'm talking about it, because people aren't going to talk about this subject. And I'm actually talking about going with your clothes on, in your trousers. There's nothing you can do about it apart from clear up the mess afterwards. And it's horrendous. I'll tell you that now. Lucky for me, you know, I'm used to it. It happens. I've got a shower. I can sort myself out. It's still embarrassing to this day. The worst thing about the whole process over life is, and I'm 60 now and I couldn't give a shit. Literally, I have given a shit. But over the course of your life, it's when you meet a new girlfriend or a new partner and then they have to find out about it. But the quite interesting thing is, then they realise some of the other people in their lives that have had IBS. A lot of the time when people talk about IBS, they talk about IBS-C, which is the cramps and the constipation and everything else. And that is horrendous for some people. But the IBS-D, a lot of people don't talk about. And that's because they actually go to the toilet. I remember working one day, and I'm not going to tell you where the place was, but I was actually working, and one of my colleagues that I was working with, a lady, probably in her 40s, 45-ish, she went out at lunchtime and she came back and she was in a completely new set of clothing. And I looked at her and I said, "You okay?" And she said, "Yeah." And it just came out basically. And she got upset and she was crying and she told me. She had actually gone in somewhere or another and she needed to go to the toilet. And the staff in the shop wouldn't allow her to use their toilet. So she had gone. She'd just gone. She'd sorted herself. And then she had to go home and sort herself out. And people with IBS-D have to deal with this, the same as people with IBS-C have to deal with theirs. And IBS mixed, oh my God, which is basically what I've had over my life, is it changes from one to the other and one to the other, or it goes away completely. Sometimes you can think it's triggered by heat. Sometimes you can think it's triggered by cold. Sometimes you think the doctor's put you on something that will help you. And then your body, basically what happens is, that I've worked out over my lifetime, is your body works its way around any medication you're given or anything you do, and it will just change from one thing to the other. Now, the reason I brought this up today, and the reason I want to talk about it, is because my whole channel, apart from photography, is helping other people. I can deal with IBS-D. At the end of the day, I walk my dog, I go for hundreds of miles, I walk in the countryside. It's bliss. Trust me, it's bliss. When you're in the middle of nowhere, out of a city, going to the loo in the bushes or this, that, and the other, and then collecting everything up and chucking it in a bin somewhere, just like when you do with your own dog poo, is absolutely simple. You've just got to be aware of what's going to happen and take it with you. Some days of the week, I never go at all, I never have a problem, and then I can have periods of 2 or 3 months with nothing happening, and suddenly it hits you out of the blue. And that's the worst thing, because you think you've got it under control, then suddenly you just go again. So for 60 years I've had it, so I can talk about it now, and I turn it into a joke. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, if I go out tomorrow, I could shit myself somewhere, or I could go quick enough and find somewhere to go. But trust me, in a city, it's not as easy. And these days, it's even worse for some people. I'm not talking about people who just shit in the street, because I've never done that. Wherever I have to go, you'd never know I've been, and I clear up after myself. And it's as simple as that. Trying to do it though and not get caught has had some hilarious things. Once I was with Jane, we were up on a mountain in Snowdonia, and I thought I found the perfect place to go and squat down between 2 rocks, and I had my arms on the rocks, if you can picture the scene, looking out over the beauties of Snowdonia, and 2 people walked up in front of me. Oh my God, talk about embarrassed. But the thing is, I think they just thought I was sitting there having a cup of coffee. So I've sorted myself out and got on with it. But I've got millions of stories like that. When I was a kid, you know, you'd go out, you're not going to know what's happened, and suddenly you've got to go to the loo somewhere, and then you'd end up going home with no socks because you've used your socks as toilet paper. Now, I said I'd make it a bit funny, but I've got used to that over the years, that people that have started getting IBS younger will think, oh my God, how embarrassing. And yes, if you cannot control it later in life, and I'm telling you, you can't, because if you can think of the worst time you've ever had and you've had diarrhea and you couldn't make it to the toilet, IBS-D is like that. And the worst time you ever have stomach cramps and cramps, that is IBS-C. And mixed, when it changes from one to the other and one to the other, oh my God, it's just because you don't know whether you're coming or going, or whether you're going to shit yourself or be constipated. And whatever medication you get given from the doctors, your body will work its way around that. So if you're watching this and you've got any of these, you will know what I'm talking about. Now, these all come about, in theory, some of this comes about from anxiety. So if you can stop the anxiety, then you can stop it. I was told, well, I had my gallbladder out about 2019, And I was told that having your gallbladder out can make IBS worse. Now, I don't know whether that was IBS-D or C, but technically I didn't actually have IBS for probably a year after having my gallbladder out at all. All the symptoms went away. And that, I thought it was finished, it was all over, and that's when the Tesco's incident happened, when I was halfway between Tesco's and home. Because I thought it had gone away, I wasn't even thinking about it, I didn't have anything on me to go anywhere. Now, in this day and age as well, I will tell you this, there's been stuff shared on the internet and shared online of people going to the toilet in alleyways, this, that and the other, on people's cameras. There's cameras everywhere these days. That makes it extremely difficult for anyone that's got IBS. But some of these people just go and crap somewhere and leave it. I have never done that in my life. I always clean up after myself. You'd never know I've been. But trust me, if you have IBS-D and you just go. There's nothing you can do about it. So if you are watching this and you think it's terrible that people go into this, you would be surprised how many people have IBS-D. You would be shocked how many people have got bowel disease and other problems, and what a stigma it is for some poor person to be somewhere and need to go to the toilet. Gone are the days of public toilets everywhere. Yes, it's quite good in a city. When I used to do street photography and photo walks, I used to do photo walks in a city. There was always a loo you could go to or a cafe you could go in or something. And many a time when I was teaching photography and doing photo walks, I used toilets. The biggest problem ever, I could never teach landscape. I taught a couple of landscape workshops. The worst thing about landscape workshops for me was I would have to go to the toilet and I'd be with a group. Where do I go? And I've done it a couple of times, but it's the most embarrassing thing. And on one of the trips I did, I said to the guy that was doing it with me, I always had someone do it with me so I could disappear off if I had to. And nearly every single one of my friends knows I've got IBS and knows the result of it. I had a toilet in my camper van. I told one of the guys that I was teaching a workshop with, whatever happens, if I disappear, don't open the door of my van. And one day we were out teaching this workshop, he's in the car park and he's going, has anyone seen Matt? Has anyone seen Matt? Has anyone seen Matt? And opens the door to my van. I mean, it's these moments, a lot of people don't notice what's going on. They don't think about it and they don't see it. You become an expert with IBS-D to find somewhere to go to the toilet where no one's going to see you. And if you are really, really good and used to it, you will carry everything to clean yourself up, from toilet roll to wet wipes to dog poo bags, etc. Now, it's a bit of a shit subject. I know it was. I don't know how this is going to go down on YouTube. A lot of people don't talk about things like this, or they'll get medical professionals to talk about it. But in my experience over the years, I have never met a medical professional that knows anything about IBS. In fact, when I came up here, my old doctor, Dr. Mullen, who used to be really, really good, once said to me, you know more about IBS than I do because it's a syndrome and doctors don't know too much about it. Oh, trust me, that's the best thing he ever said. And I've had counsellors and everything else say, oh, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And oh, it just doesn't work. Trust me, if you've got it, don't worry about it. Stop listening to doctors. Stop worrying about what other people say. Learn how your body works. Now, I know if I eat fresh tomatoes, it makes it worse. I know that if I have fibre gel when I've got IBS-C, that helps me for a period of time. But fibre gel then creates massives of waste inside your stomach that you've got to then get rid of. So then it makes IBS-D twice as bad because you've just got so, well, as I always used to say, you've got so much poo, you've never seen so much poo when you take fibre gel. So taking fibre gel is great when you've got IBS-C, but then when it switches to IBS-D, it's the worst thing in the world to take. My doctor once gave me tablets that would stop diarrhea. I can't remember what they're called, Imodium or something like that. And he said, these would be great. And he said, if you take 3 or 4 of those, you'll never go to the toilet. I took 3 to 4 this day because I was going out and I thought, wow, this is brilliant. I took 4 tablets, I went out. Oh my God, trust me, it's the worst thing ever. My body overrode that. I wanted to go to the toilet, I was sweating, there was water running down my face where I was panicking, and I just ran into this toilet in this coffee shop and went to the toilet, and I thought, oh my God, I am never taking medication like that again, because it's easier to deal with your body when you know what it's gonna do than it is to deal with your body when you're full of medication trying to stop something happening and your body overrides it anyway. There's loads of stuff about this. I'm not going to do it all in this one session, but I am going to say this to anyone that's got IBS. I've been there. I know what it feels like. I feel for you. Trust me, don't listen to your doctors all the time. Don't listen to anyone else that thinks they can try and help you. Learn how your body functions. Learn what foods make it worse. Learn everything about the whole problem with it. Now, I think mine is double. I think sometimes it is caused by anxiety and sometimes it is caused by the foods I eat. And sometimes it will just change from one to the other. And as Jane and I have talked about for years about this, is when you try and actually narrow it down to what it is that causes it, you can't. It is impossible. There is no way of doing it. And no matter who you talk to, they think they can help you and cure you. They can't. Learn how your body reacts to certain things. Learn how it reacts to foods. You can't do anything about the anxiety at all unless you can try and teach your brain not to get anxiety. Good luck with that. And also, because of dyslexia and ADHD symptoms of me being slightly on the spectrum as well, then good luck with that. And now I've had a stroke 5 years ago, so the stroke anxiety comes and goes and that creates issues as well. Most of the time, I don't have much of a problem these days. It's just the odd time I get caught out and I end up having to go to the loo. And if you've got a friend with IBS, you've got to understand one thing about them. When they need to go, they need to go. When I first met Jane, we were driving along in the car and she said, "You okay?" I said, "No." And I was absolutely desperate. And I said, "You need to stop, I need to go to the loo." And she said, "Oh, there's a petrol station." I said, "No, just forget it. Just stop the car. I need to go." So she had to stop and I had to go through the indignity of having to go to the loo, sorting myself out and then explaining it all to her. And then, you know, at the end of the day, she said a couple of comments about someone she knows that might have had the same as me. And so it's very interesting. But once that's broken and you've dealt with it, I've got friends that I've driven with and everything. Every single one of my friends know I've got it. I relieve the fact that I've got it by telling my friends I have, and then they know that if I have to disappear off somewhere, I just say, "I've got to go to the loo." They know. They've been there, they've seen it, and it also helps me as well because I don't have to think, "Oh, any minute now I'm going to have to go to the loo and I'm going to have to try and explain all this to someone." So nearly every single friend I meet and make friends with that really get to know me, then they know what's going on and they know I have to go to the loo. That takes the anxiety away from that. There's always a way around it. If you've got IBS and this has helped you, please leave a comment below. I expect there's going to be a load of shit comments below, but I've had this for 60 years, so I actually don't care what I talk about and the way I say about it. I've had some funny stories. I'm not going to give you millions and millions of funny stories, but the amount of times I've nearly been caught. One of the first times, and I apologise to this place, as a kid, one of the first times it ever happened when I was out and about is I had a motorcycle accident, and instead of being able to go to work the next day on my motorcycle because it was smashed up, I had to walk. And so it was a 6-mile walk to work. And I was walking to work and I was desperate, and I went on this company's doorstep, and it was Pickford's in Maidstone. So if any of you worked there, whatever, 30, 40 years ago, I'm sorry, because the only thing I could find to wipe my bum with afterwards was your daily newspaper, and that was it. And I tried to clean it up the best I can, but I didn't do a very good job of it because I was quite young then. I didn't get the hang of it, so left a bloody mess on their doorstep. So that's life. That's what happens. That's IBS. If you want to research it. I guarantee you there's loads of information out there, but there's no information that will help you. So to recap, don't rely on medication. Use it if you need to, but get off it as quickly as possible. Don't stay on it. Especially if you're on Imodium or something to make you go or make you stop. Your body will work its way around it in the end. So short term, very quickly, get on it and get off it. If you use Fibergel is quite good for both, not just IBS-C, but IBS-D, because IBS-C, it helps you and it can clear you out. But then IBS-D, it can stop that feeling of incomplete emptying. And the only people that know what I'm talking about are people with IBS-D. Because when you've got IBS-D, you don't think you've done enough, so you think you want to keep going and going and going. So you could end up staying on the toilet all day. Well, Fibergel helps with that. And any other medications, be careful. Watch what you eat. I found especially fresh tomatoes are one of the worst things for IBS-D. Work out what you eat, stick to quite a boring diet, and you can't go too far wrong. Feel free to drop questions below. I will answer them. Or you can message me if you can find me online, and I'll reply back. Thanks for watching. I've got ADHD and dyslexia to come, and I'll try and get them done tomorrow or the next day. Take care.